If you're ever feeling behind in life, it's important to recognize that it might not be your fault. In today's world, who you're born to is actually probably one of the most significant factors in determining how successful you'll be in life. So let's actually discuss structural disadvantages. It's pretty well known that, on average, someone from an impoverished family is generally going to be less successful than someone from a middle class family, from a upper class family, and from an ultra rich family. And most of us are not born to wealthy or well connected families, and this dramatically impacts the opportunities available to us. For example, maybe you grew up in a rough neighborhood where the public school system was well known to be underfunded, failing, or always performing below national standards. And I used to work at a food bank, so there were plenty of studies about how food insecurity led to worse performance in schools, and it's no secret that poor grades can contribute to less success in adulthood. Or even if you are from a middle class family, you generally don't have the specialized private tutors or connections to get you into elite universities. And once you graduate, you also don't have a predetermined pathway to a great first job at a top tier firm. On a more drastic note, I remember one time reading a sensationalized Yahoo article about the 14-year-old kid who started this $1 million cookie business. As you're reading, there's really nothing special about the cookie at all. It turns out his parents were rich and helping him sell it to their rich friends. And stories like that make it pretty apparent of the major advantages of how the best way to be rich is to start off rich. Beyond that, having more resources affords you more options. If you don't have much money, then your choices are to live paycheck to paycheck and hopefully have enough to pay your rent or to buy food and other living expenses. If you're doing a little bit better, then you can unlock the new option of being able to save a bit more each month. If you have a lot of resources, you can pay your rent, buy food, do the things you want, and risk losing money in a business or in an investment. And even if you do lose money in a business or an investment, it's fine because you have a lot more money. But investing and risk taking is a very important tool to building wealth, something that the wealthy often take advantage of and utilize, and something that the less wealthy can't afford to do. Now, there's also the idea that education is the great equalizer, and that's only partially true. So, while a degree can improve your earning potential, it doesn't necessarily negate the structural advantages of coming from a wealthy family. So, for most people, it won't help you break ceilings of wealth either. Starting from the beginning, student loan debts has become a significant burden for many people who pursue higher education, particularly those from lower income backgrounds. Wealthy families can often pay for their children's education outright, or at least offer substantial financial support, allowing their children to start their careers without the crushing weight of debt. Or it can give them the freedom to be more adventurous and to take more risks. By contrast, poorer children may opt from going to more expensive universities, who are also more reputable in order to save money, and still, even after graduation, they may frequently graduate with huge debts, which also delays their ability to build wealth and forces them to make more conservative career choices in order to meet monthly debt obligations. Moreover, graduates from less wealthy families often have to work during their studies, which can affect their academic performance and future job prospects. Meanwhile, those from affluent backgrounds can focus entirely on their studies, on their internships, on networking opportunities, all of which increase their chances of landing higher paying jobs post graduation. And according to this study, even after obtaining a degree, the wealth gap between families continue to influence career trajectories, which affluent graduates often find themselves in better paying positions more quickly. And the traditional model of going to school, getting a job, and saving for retirement is becoming less effective for achieving financial security, especially for those starting with fewer resources. In fact, many of today's jobs do not offer the same benefits, wages, or security they once did. So it's due to stagnating wages, the rising cost of living, the erosion of pension plans means that for most people, simply having a job isn't enough to accumulate significant wealth. And if education isn't the answer, then there's always entrepreneurship, right? Well, many people turn to entrepreneurship as an alternative to the traditional 9 to 5 and traditional route of climbing the corporate ladder, hoping that starting their own business is going to help provide financial independence. However, starting a business is often also, ironically, more accessible to those with money to invest and those with a higher safety net and with more connections. Entrepreneurs from poorer backgrounds face much higher risks. They are more likely to rely on their personal debt, such as credit cards or payday loans, to fund their ventures, which can lead to financial disaster if the business fails. For the wealthy, they have more access to capital, so that's angel investors, friends who are venture capitalists, or they can have mentorship from other accomplished entrepreneurs in their network or their family's networks. Plenty of the good stuff that really helps a business thrive and succeed. And your first or second or third business isn't guaranteed to succeed. Many small businesses struggle to stay afloat, and even successful businesses may not generate that kind of wealth that creates financial security. And for a poor individual, a failure could mean the erosion of their life savings. For a wealthier individual, it's just Monday or Tuesday. They can do it many times over. And not to mention the psychological and emotional toll that financial insecurity can take on you. So, beyond the practical challenges, there's also the emotional and psychological toll of constantly feeling behind. Financial stress can have profound effect on mental health and decision making, because when you're constantly worried about making ends meet, it becomes much harder to plan for the future, to take risks, or even to invest in yourself through either education, career changes, or professional development. Now, poverty also forces people into a scarcity mindset, where immediate needs overshadow long term goals. A reminder that Maslow's hierarchy of needs rings true again. And this mindset, the scarcity mindset, makes it even much more challenging to break free from the cycle of poverty, as decisions are often made based on survival rather than on growth. And I know what you're thinking, that there's always some people that do really have a rags to riches story. Well, these are exceptions and not the rule. In statistics, we usually have something called outliers. The things that I've shared are generalized information based on probabilities and likelihood, but that doesn't mean there aren't real rags to riches stories. It's just that statistically, it's much less likely to happen than for someone who was already born rich. And maybe it's an American dream kind of thing, but there's usually an embellishment or omission in rags to riches stories. In reality, many of the ultra rich did come from rich, well off families. I remember when I was younger, even Bill Gates was painted as someone or somewhat of a rags to riches story, where they mentioned he was at least from a middle class family, but managed to make it big. But in reality, his mom knew the CEO of IBM, and his dad was a lawyer. So even then, make sure it's not a sensationalized story where you think so many come from humble beginnings and are doing way better than you. It may actually just be a good story with drama, flair, and embellishments. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.